200 to 250. Having an unstable shilling, Honorable Speaker, having external borrowing that had gone overboard and stretched us in terms of physical space, inflation having been very as high as 9, and having a challenge with the relationship with the church, which was ongoing, having femicide as a challenge on his head, and many other things, including the sugar sector, which had completely died, walks in Parliament and confidently confronts those issues one by one. That's a very great leader. In fact, when the President walked in the House, I was not sure how he would address the nation and Parliament. But at the end of his speech, I was totally convinced that he's a President who is ready to confront the challenges that are before him and the challenges that are facing Kenyans. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, I was very clear in my mind that the standing ovation which the President received in this House was indeed worthwhile, and he deserved it. Because he spoke truthfully, he spoke rightfully, he did not hide any cards, he did not gloss anything, but confronted everything that needed to be confronted head on, including Parliament itself, on certain laws that it has not passed, especially the conflict bill. And also confronted the judiciary on how they deal with corruption cases. And that is why this House must not feel intimidated in any way that they gave the President a standing ovation. I'm a teacher of history and government, and there are presidents who have received standing ovations. One of the longest standing ovations, Honorable Speaker, was 22 minutes that one president in America received because of his good address in that particular assembly. But let me pick out only one because of time. That the confrontation the President tackled with or did with Shah and Chief was so good. I've gone to the villages and realized that the biggest challenge with Shah and Chief is the registration. That if we want to succeed in that sector, the truth is that we must make our people register. How do they register? The CHPs were sent 3 links. The first link was not working. The second link was not working. The third link is working. But unfortunately, they need bundles in order to register our people. We need to move as Parliament and as ourselves, and possibly I'm speaking to the Minister, that we need to mark that link for registration of people into Chief and Shah to be white marked, so that it does not draw any money or need any bundles from the CHPs, and they'll actually register everybody. Once we register everybody, then we can confront the issue of, is it working or is it not working? So that's one area I thought that its confrontation was very, very correct. Another area the President confronted was education and CBC and the issue of employment of teachers, which I thought was very good, but we are now challenged with promotion. Honorable Speaker, between promotion of 45,000 teachers and them not being promoted is a letter by the CS in the Ministry of Treasury, which is blocking the Teacher Service Commission to actually use the money they have in air so that those teachers can be promoted. I would be seeking and asking this House that we do ask the Minister for Treasury, the CS Treasury Ministry, to actually allow the Teacher Service Commission to promote these teachers. With those many remarks, I want to commend the President. That was a great speech. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Nominated Member, Honourable Bishop Jackson Kosgei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute in recognizing and appreciating the State of the Nation address by His Excellency, the President of our great country. Allow me, Madam Speaker, to quote from one of the scholars about regimes and systems that rules and ruled the world. There is a university, a lecturer in one of the Indian universities, Krishna Udayasankar. He said about empires, quote, "No empire lasts forever. No dynasty continues unbroken. Someday, you and I will be mere legends. All that matters is whether we did what we could with the life that was given to us, end of quote. It was a speech of leadership with due care and attention, Madam Speaker. The President was honest, the President was candid, the President was focused, and the President was relevant. He has been described both us in this country, in this speech, and internationally. I listened to some of the comments made by the other countries, and they said he appeared and demonstrated as a listening president on the following areas, which was very clear in his comments about health, about food security, about education, about security, and about economy. Madam Speaker, it provoked the thinking. Mr. Speaker, sorry, sorry for that. Mr. Speaker, when I listened to the President and the reactions that we had, and listening in the light of where we have come from in the history of this country from since independence, for a country to progress and for us to benefit from every leadership that comes to us, I wish to appeal to all of us as a country and people of this nation that what will make us benefit from this country, Mr. Speaker, is what has been described by historians as solidarity of purpose. That we must be proud to stand by our shared values and interests as a people, so that every opportunity given to us, we will be able to use it to advance ourselves. We should also have a national pride. Let us be proud of our country, love our nation, and make sure that each one of us plays their role as we serve this nation. Let every one of us play their role. Do the best you can so that we can pull together our country towards prosperity and a promise for future generations. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, on matters that was raised by the President, on health, for example, and education and security, I wish to also comment on what our ladies, women have faced in this country recently. What surprises is that some of the people who attack our women are people known to them. So it is a question of moral values. And I appeal that all social connection institutions should be able to do their best in influencing the character and moral shaping of our society. With that, Mr. Speaker, I applaud.
Very well. The Honorable Paul Murigi, Igembe South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is our motherland, and we do not have any other country to call home. I commend His Excellency the President for the well-informed speech which he issued here on Thursday, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this nation, the time this government assumed office, we were not on the right trajectory. But His Excellency the President set it clear the achievement which we have achieved up to now, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a president has reformed agriculture sector, Mr. Speaker, whereby he took initiative to subsidize the input since the previous government, Mr. Speaker, subsidized the consumable goods, Mr. Speaker. And through subsidizing, Mr. Speaker, the input, the prices of fertilizer, Mr. Speaker, which was 7,000, dropped to 2,500, Mr. Speaker. And there's so many farmers, Mr. Speaker, produce a lot of food, Mr. Speaker, which His Excellency the President on Thursday in this House told us that in our NCPB, we have more than 47 million bags, Mr. Speaker, which are already there, meaning that this country, Mr. Speaker, is going to be a food secure country whereby the importation, which we have experienced, Mr. Speaker, in past years, where this nation has been importing maize, Mr. Speaker, we are almost there. We are almost a sufficient food authority nation, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President talked about revival of the sugar factories, Mr. Speaker. 17 factories, Mr. Speaker, are already operational. And now, Mr. Speaker, Kenya is sugar secure or sugar sufficient, Mr. Speaker, whereby he informed us, Mr. Speaker, we are now on our way to export our sugar to other nations, Mr. Speaker. Meaning that the money which was being used to import sugar, Mr. Speaker, will be utilized somewhere else. And also, the dollar, Mr. Speaker, which we lacked, Mr. Speaker, when we were importing this sugar, Mr. Speaker, the economy of this nation is going to improve immensely, Mr. Speaker, since we will be exporting sugar, Mr. Speaker. It should be noted that also the employment of our young people, Mr. Speaker, many of them have been absorbed in these 17 factories, Mr. Speaker, and the upcoming 3 factories, Mr. Speaker, also will see many youths get employment in these factories, Mr. Speaker. Meaning that His Excellency the President and thought well about this nation, Mr. Speaker. Since as a father of this nation, you must think how this nation would grow and put to an end the complaints of the citizens, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, His Excellency the President elaborated on the health care reforms, Mr. Speaker. And we have heard many testimonies from Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, who have benefited from the health care, Mr. Speaker, the just a reformed health care, the Taifa care, Mr. Speaker. And most of the Kenyan citizens have benefited from this insurance. And it is my urge to urge all Kenyans that we get enrolled to this insurance so that you can benefit. It is an instant insurance which can benefit our people. So, Mr. Speaker, I commend the speech of His Excellency, and I know this nation, Mr. Speaker, is going to be secure. Thank you very much.
Very well. The Honorable Suzanne Kiamba. Very well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also make a contribution to the President's speech. First and foremost, Honorable Speaker, I wish to appreciate 2 important things. One thing that I actually liked in that speech is the promise that there will be exemption of taxation to agricultural inputs. I hope that is implemented very fast because our farmers are suffering with very expensive inputs that has made farming unprofitable. Honorable Speaker, I wish that is actually reinforced so that we could actually have our farmers benefiting from the issue of farming, the business of farming. Secondly, I wish to appreciate the issue of the sugar, the incentive they were actually given, and now that the fact that we can have our own sugar, I think that is a plus. Nevertheless, I think I have so many questions to ask on the president's speech, and I wish these issues would actually be put into context. One, Honorable Speaker, I think the concept of SHA was very beautiful, but the implementation, as far as I'm concerned, remains a scam. Simply because you realize today the people taking the burden of SHA are the salaried people. Kenya is not made of salaried people alone. When they carry the burden of SHA, without the big businessmen who are not in SHA, the informal sector, you're making the salaried person a slave. This is specifically discriminatory, and I do not know what they were hiring for. If this is a program for Kenya, we surely need to have everybody on board, and we do not only have the salaried people carry the burden of SHA. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, when we were in this house, I heard also SHA is a Taifa Care. How many things are being introduced outside this parliament? I think it is respectful. The terms we get in this parliament continue to be used consistently. Otherwise, we are house for decoration. We are not house to make decisions for Kenyan. I was very shocked to hear, I don't know what care. While I knew very well we had SHA and we had the issue of chef, which we all knew. I think it is very demoting for people behind the curtains to go and start having other funny names, because it erodes the Kenyan trust. Because we wonder when those names were crafted, what else was actually crafted. On the issue of SHA, Honorable Speaker, you know, people are hiding. What benefits are getting to these people? There is a lot of, what benefits? A person who has dialysis, a family, is being entitled to shillings per session, 6,000 shillings. How much is a session of dialysis? Honorable Speaker, let's unpackage this, and let's not pretend that we are newcomers in Kenya. If you give somebody with dialysis 6,000 shillings for a family, what are you actually giving? That's a big joke. I think that needs to be reviewed. Honorable Speaker, the undone in SHA must go out. If we have said undone is corrupt all through, we cannot have an element of undone in SHA, and it's being covered up to think like we don't have undone. We need undone out of SHA, Honorable Speaker. And I think that is actually in order. Honorable Speaker,
yes,
my second point goes to...
Order, there's a point over there.
Honorable Speaker, everything that is said and mentioned on this floor of the House, Honorable Speaker, has to be substantiated, Honorable Speaker, and must be factual. Honorable Speaker, I ask that the Speaker on the floor of the House produce evidence that Adani has something to do with SHA. Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, I think that member must be very foreign.
Order, Honorable Member, and the language in this House is not that casual. This is a House of order, House of rules. Members risen from his place and ask that you substantiate the issue of the relationship between Adani and SHA. Proceed or withdraw.
Honorable Speaker, if I'm not reading right, one of the companies that is actually implementing SHA is in partnership with Adani. And it is all over. Honorable Speaker, I can actually bring that information if you give me time.
Order, House of Records, could you proceed and name the company and produce the documents of that company and its relationship with the same? And the House of Rules and Order. Proceed with your speech. Proceed with your address.
Honorable Speaker, I can see everybody's in arms because this House has decided that any other voice should not actually be heard. But Honorable Speaker, protect me. My second point, Honorable Speaker, nobody is against public-private partnership. And when we say we accuse Adani and the Kenyans rejected the issue of Adani, it is not issue of rejecting public-private partnership.
Add the 100 minute. Yes, her time was taken away. 1 minute.
Honorable Speaker, I need my God. Honorable Speaker, I think, Honorable Speaker, the issue of governance. I think the President talked about this. But recently, when we had what we are calling the broad-based government, what we are witnessing is a case where the opposition has joined the government. I can say practically in this house, we don't have a functional opposition because everything is becoming yes, 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 yes. And I don't think Kenyans are getting what they should get out of the parliament. This is reducing the democratic space that the Kenyans have actually worked so hard to develop. Honorable Speaker.
We can't block up. Yes, sir, what's your point of order, Honorable Member? Please give, yes, the microphone is there for you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member has just talked about opposition joining the government. I would like to confirm to you that I'm in the opposition, I've not joined any other government, and if there is anyone who has joined, please clarify to us who is this person called opposition. As a member of ODM party, I'm in the opposition and there to stay until you are elected.
Your point of order has been made. Please, the Speaker on the floor, conclude.
I've not mentioned anybody. I'm giving my opinion on what I see in the floor of the House. Giving my opinion of what I see in the floor of House, where the opposition leader fully supports the government and actually even speaks more than the proposer of the motion from the government side. Honorable Speaker, my last point. Since June 24, Honorable Speaker, this is a very important point. The President talked about we are having security. But since June 2023, this country has witnessed high levels of insecurity. Honorable Speaker, killing of the youth in Gen Zs. Even the Shakahola issue have never been answered. What is insecurity in Kenya?
Very well, you have had your bite. You have had your bite, Honorable Member. The Honorable Paul Biego.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and I rise to add my voice on the President's State of Nation address. And as he gave his scorecard for the 2 years, he was very clear, and most importantly, he sold hope to the great people of Kenya. What struck me most, Mr. Speaker, is when he pointed out and demonstrated how KWS has increased their revenue from 5.3 billion to 7.6 billion by strengthening and tightening their procurement processes, which cut on wastages by digitalizing their systems. This is one parastatal, Mr. Speaker, that has done so well, and the template being used by them should be cascaded throughout the country to help institutions be self-sustaining. Mr. Speaker, he also mentioned so many gains, amongst them the shilling stabilization, which appreciated from Kenyan shillings 162 to the dollar, which is today at 129, reflecting a positive turnaround and upward trajectory to the economy. Mr. Speaker, issues to do with the economy is key, and he also mentioned the fact that inflation rate has come down. And I think I'm very happy about that, because the inflation from 9.6 to 2.7 is very impressive. Mr. Speaker, he also mentioned about the employment of 56,000 JSS teachers. We take note that in a record 2 years, no other government has been able to employ 56,000 on permanent and pensionable status. And alongside that, Mr. Speaker, I've taken note of the building of the JSS classrooms, over 11,000 classes across the country. Mr. Speaker, it is also notable to know that in agriculture, the sugar factories have been revived. 17 factories are operational, and we shall be self-sustaining very soon. So it is remarkable. And on the issue of corruption, the fight on corruption, he actually gave zero tolerance and asked Treasury to adopt the e-procurement services. And it is I'm happy and notable that 20,850 services are being currently offered digitally, which is something to be proud of. Another thing, Mr. Speaker, that I am happy of is that each arm of the government was called out, e.g. this House, Parliament, on the issue of conflict of interest bill, and the judiciary on the issues of delayed cases. I'll also take note about the SHA, SHIV, and the Taifa Care Health Care Services, and I call upon Kenyans that it is a new product which I see and believe that it is going to be very good. Let's give it some time. And as many members have said, and as he also said, is that it is very important for us to tell our people to register themselves so that they can enjoy using these services. Notably, also, Mr. Speaker, is the trips that the President and his entourage makes to overseas that I think has bore a lot of fruits. The bilateral agreements and MOUs has shown that the labor force we are now exporting will help and assist in the growth of the GDP. Lastly, I'm happy that the policies that have been put in place has helped bring down living standards, e.g. the price commodities like unga and other stuffs like fuel, petrol products have come down, and I'm happy that this country is now on a positive trajectory. Thank you.
The Honorable Dick Maungu.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for the opportunity that I may also be able to add and contribute on this important address to the nation. Mr. Speaker, the presidential address to this National Assembly is a matter that is constitutional and therefore meant to communicate, or rather set the agenda of the country. And the whole country was waiting anxiously to hear what message the president had for this country. And there's a Swahili saying that says, Mugala muue lakini haki mpe. I must agree that the statement had a lot of hope and gave hope to Kenyans, especially on the number of variables that I wish to delve into, Mr. Speaker. One was the issue to do with education. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that this regime has done extremely well in matters education, because as much as we have had challenges, but teacher management, especially recruitment of teachers, it's a plus that we should all be able to uphold, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to date, this government has been able to recruit close to 56,000 teachers. We'll go in to address the huge shortage we've had, teacher shortage that we've had. And I believe that this is an issue that we all should be able to applaud, an issue that we should all be able to really appreciate, Mr. Speaker, because previous regimes, one thing that we had was that teachers were only employed at the rate of only 5,000 per year, which was purely replacement. And therefore, the step this regime took to employ teachers was bold, and very bold indeed. And therefore, I must applaud the President for that. Mr. Speaker, one issue that has become of concern of late is the issue of femicide that has taken place in our country. We are in a situation in a country whereby we find that people no longer have respect for life. People no longer have respect for human life and more so human blood. People are being slaughtered like chicken. People are being killed left, right, and center. And Mr. Speaker, when the President talked about femicide, I wish he was able to expand it to include other areas, Mr. Speaker. I come from a region where of late we've had serious issues of insecurity, whereby people have been cut with pangas, with chokers, some even shot, Mr. Speaker. And I wonder what has become of us as a nation, because people no longer have respect for human life. People no longer have respect, for human life, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, as we talked about femicide and the insecurity we have, how I wish that it could have involved other insecurities that we face as a country, and maybe direct the necessary agencies, the Ministry of Interior, to really move deeper and see what is the root cause for all these insecurities we have, Mr. Speaker. For example, Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 weeks or so in my area of Luanda, we've had serious murders taking place, and this has all to do with insecurity, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I must applaud that, but call for more action on the issue of security, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is the matter of Adani and our airport. It's a fact that the Kenyan airport and JKA that we are so proud about is not an airport of great significance as compared to others whenever we visit out. And it is true that Kenyans are yearning for a new airport. It is true that Kenyans will wish to have a state-of-the-art airport that is commensurate, or rather pairs well with other international airports. But the matter at hand was the person who was supposed to do the PPI, the Adani deal, Mr. Speaker. And this is where Kenyans had an issue. I particularly had an issue with Adani because of issues that we've read before, what we have gathered before, and what has been said about Adani. And therefore, I must applaud the president who came out strongly and actually agreed with Kenyans that Adani should actually, the tender or the PPP should actually be cancelled. And therefore, to me, that was a great thing, Mr. Speaker. And I believe that let us have a new person who can do the PPP. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I must confess that I've not been very keen on the she issue, Mr. Speaker. And recent testimonies from my people is that they are now beginning to appreciate what this scheme has. It is more inclusive, it is more accommodative, and therefore I must say that I'm now deeper inside compared to before, Mr. Speaker, because I actually didn't support SHA. I actually didn't even know what SHA was as much as we passed this law in this country, Mr. Speaker. But I found it more accommodative. I found it more inclusive, and therefore...
The Honorable Hilary Kosgei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to record my thanks to the President's speech on the state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, it is important to know where we came from as a country, Mr. Speaker. When the President took over this country, everything was collapsing. The economy was on its knees, agriculture was on its knees, every other sector was collapsing, Mr. Speaker. And what the President did was, first of all, to revive the economy, so much so that, according to his speech, Mr. Speaker, and which is a fact, even the dollar reserves have risen from $2.4 billion to $9.4 billion. The inflation has come down from 8.7 to 2.7, Mr. Speaker. And generally, the economy is in good footing. Mr. Speaker, the task this president is handling is equivalent, Mr. Speaker, to when Mwai Kibaki took over this country, when he called upon Kenyans to lipe ushuru, tujitegemee, and coalesce the country, rallying the country around Vision 2030, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this president has laid the foundation. The cost of living has come down, farmers are earning, and Mr. Speaker, the biased media has not stopped every step of the way from nagging the good progress that we are making. If you see the headline of the Standard today, Mr. Speaker, it is reporting that farmers are about, this parliament is about to enact regulations that are going to make farming very difficult. I want to tell the Standard, Mr. Speaker, that farming is becoming more profitable. Sugar industries, 17 of them are being revived. We are turning this country from an sugar importing country to a sugar exporting country in the next few years, Mr. Speaker, and things are moving well, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, companies that, the biased media will not report, companies that were known to be making losses, companies like Kenya Power and Lighting, for the first time under this administration, for several years, which had been making losses, recorded a 30 billion profit just recently. Kenya Airways, Mr. Speaker, which has been known for losses throughout the entire regimes, has recorded over 30 billion profits because of the stability that this president has put, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, these successes are laying a foundation to conclude the Vision 2030, Mr. Speaker, and to enter into a new era called the Agenda 2063, which is dubbed, Mr. Speaker, as the Africa we want, where African governments are fighting to make sure their citizens enjoy good life by the year 2063. And part of that, Mr. Speaker, is the work on the affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, when we took independence, we became happy about the nation, the new country, and forgot to plan our country. And that is why in Kenya, we have the largest slum, East and Central Africa. This housing project, Mr. Speaker, is based on a study by the World Bank that has said that by the year 2055, 65% of Kenyans will be urban. And by starting the affordable housing, the president is attempting to stop a kibera happening in the near future, Mr. Speaker. And so the foundation of this nation, Mr. Speaker, has been well laid, and I thank the president for speaking candidly to the country and for telling the country, yes, we were badly off, we are not yet out, but we are making good progress towards a better country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Christopher Seka.
Thank you, Speaker. I also rise to join my colleagues in applauding the President's address to the nation. And more particularly, Mr. Speaker, I will dwell on one issue, the state of economy. Mr. Speaker, the drop of inflation rate from 9.6 to 2.7 has occasioned a reduction in the cost of the basic commodities. I reside from Western Kenya, where maize and ugali remains our staple food. And as we compare the prices that were there then in 2022, time like now, and the price that are there today, the prices of a 2 kg maize flour has reduced by 100%. Mr. Speaker, I also laud the economy of this nation for the resilience of the Kenya shillings against the dollar. And Mr. Speaker, when our shilling is doing good against the dollar, it means we are going to pay our foreign obligations at a lower rate. What it means, it creates more fiscal space, creates more money that can be appropriated to do more development. 3, Mr. Speaker, the recruitment of 46,000 GSS teachers on permanent and pensionable terms has reduced the burden in our schools that were really using a lot of money from parents to recruit teachers. And this one is a plus to the president on the policy. Mr. Speaker, the change in strategy from consumption subsidy to production subsidy has really improved the reserves of our food reserves, and we can pride as a country that this country is now food secure, irrespective of few challenges here and there. We are happy that our national cereals and produce boards has enough food that can easily sustain this nation. But Mr. Speaker, as we allowed the President's speech, we need also to appreciate that there are challenges in the recruitment and onboarding of Kenyans on the SHIF and SHA program. And it is on us as members of the Parliament, members of the county assemblies, and all the leaders to wake up and mobilize our people to ensure that all of them are registered and are onboarded on this program. But as we do this, Mr. Speaker, there's a challenge that is coming up that in our level 2 and level 3 hospitals, as we onboard these people on this program, the infrastructure in our level 2s and our level 3s hospital cannot match the demand that is coming from the public. You go to our hospitals today, there are no basic drugs. You go to our hospitals today, there are no basic equipment that can be used to treat our people. So as we laud this program, we must also call upon the county governments in conjunction with the national governments to ensure that the infrastructure in our health sectors are commensurate to address the issue. Mr. Speaker, also, farmers have really harvested enough maize, and as we laud the food security that we are now enjoying in this country, the price of this maize, like a 90 kg bag of maize, Mr. Speaker, if we sell that maize at 3,000 shillings, and looking at the inputs that we are putting in, Mr. Speaker, farmers, many of them will go at a loss. I call upon the ministry to look at better ways of creating market linkages for this produce so that it can fetch a better price for our farmers who are really doing a good job in this farm. Mr. Speaker, our colleagues and our member of parliament who was here claiming about the opposition and everything, we are here to say that broad-based government is the best way on the best thing that happened to this country. And you can even see from the speech of the president, after the broad-based, the speech is acceptable internationally, and I can confirm. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable Kibet Komingoi of Bureti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to appreciate the President in his speech for having captured very well the mood of the nation and also asking questions. Having read his speech, the first few chapters of his speech was actually the posing of questions to be able to see how well we are able to capture the mood of the country. The question of the education funding model, the mood of the country concerning the education system, the CBC, the classrooms that are yet to be completed, the difficult life that the Kenyans are facing in cost of living, the seemingly no development within the regions and the stalled projects that we have in the country, the social health insurance program and the SHIF, now called Taifa Care. All these questions, as raised by the President in his speech, brought to fore the acknowledgement and the commitment that the nation must continue to encourage itself in its discussion so that we can be able to have meaningful engagement. And combining that with thoughtful responses, Mr. Speaker, this speech brought out what we really need to have and discuss as a nation for the purposes of moving ourselves forward and also bringing all to the understanding of the challenges that we are facing as a country and be able to tackle these challenges. The second aspect, Mr. Speaker, that I would want to raise, which I quite agree with the President, is what we are calling now the broad-based government. The broad-based government is actually the inclusion of all for the purposes of serving all, and that all may be brought on board to secure both this nation in its economic endeavors, the social fabric of this country to be intact, and even the political ideas, not only to be able to agree, not to merge ourselves and be uniform, but to be able to agree and move forward this country for the purposes of all of us benefiting from the programs and the policies of the Kenya Kwanza government. I quite agree with the President that what is good for the nation is also good for each and every section and ethnic community and every region of this country. So therefore, moving forward, we need to harness our efforts and our vision together to be able to build one nation. Mr. Speaker, the question of food security and the stability of our rural economies, we will realize that for us to be able to move our rural economies, we must be able to invest more on agriculture. The sugar sector, as had been pronounced, that 17 factories have been revived, and soon we shall be sugar sufficient, ready to export even sugar. I think we should move also to other sectors of our economy. I have in mind the question of tea production in this country, that we should be able to harness and bring together our farmers and be able to continue to look into the effects of bringing together the the agricultural policies to be able to support our farmers, especially in the tea and coffee sector. The tea industry, Mr. Speaker, some factories are old as the Mzungu days. And the government should be able to look into all these aspects to be able to improve them, modernize them, so that our people may be able to grow tea that benefits them. That the efforts and the determination of our farmers may be able to come through as money in their pockets. Mr. Speaker, especially coming together with coffee, the insecurity that is happening within the coffee regions, especially the theft of coffee, there must be integrated policies on security to our farmers and their produce so that they can be able to secure their products. I have in mind, in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, there is a coffee farm, pulping station that was invaded. 2 people were killed. Yes. And for that purpose, we must be able to harness and bring together all policies to secure the farmer, the produce, and the livelihood of the people so that we can be able to continue to secure the lives of our people. Today, they'll be having a fundraising together for the funeral expenses for this.
Very well, the Honorable Gadambi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this moment you have granted me so that I can do my contribution in relation with the State of the Nation address by our able President, William Samoei Ruto. Mr. Speaker, let me go direct to the point. The most impressing point for me when the President was addressing the nation is the matters of food security. Because this country had gone a lot of challenges. The whole country, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, when even the President himself, when he took over this government and made sure that there was also decrease in prices of fertilizers, it has really assisted farmers on the ground. Therefore, most of the farmers have confessed for having high production of food in their farms. We are now expecting even the Minister of Agriculture to assist the farmers so that we can get even good pricing for the food and the produce from their farms. Another main point which His Excellency raised in this Parliament, it was the matters to address the job which is a big thorny issue in relation with the youths in this country. And Mr. Speaker, I found it very encouraging when His Excellency has gone beyond this nation, made a lot of partnerships with different countries, and therefore we have found so many jobs even outside the country. It has also motivated us single constituencies, members of Parliament, because in our respective constituencies, we have had a lot of short courses. We have TVET, where we have really grown a lot of skilled youths. Therefore, we really appreciate the issues of overseas jobs, which His Excellency has led in different countries, and we are now seeing the fruit, because even yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the CS for Labor, Dr. Mutua, was in Nakuru County. And I think majority of people to benefit might be coming from my constituency in Joro, because I had trained so many youths through short courses. And on the point of also creation, so that we can encourage more youths, we really appreciate also the action by His Excellency the President to ensure that we have increment on employment of teachers, because in this country, there was a big baggage that there were so many trade teachers, but employment has been a thorny issue. Therefore, we appreciate the action the President made, that so far we have over 56,000 teachers already employed, and we are also expecting January 2025, the next new year, we are expecting more 20,000 teachers to be employed. I also, on the point of also job creation, in relation as we appreciate the creation of jobs in outside countries, we are also challenging the National Employment Authority to ensure that these poor youths are not also burdened by the employment agencies when it comes to the matters of the commission. Another point which I really appreciated when the president raised, it was the matters in relation with the public universities, where we have had a lot of challenge. Most of the universities have really undergone a lot of challenges. We have seen even some institutions actually dying. Therefore, I appreciate, because one of the beneficiary institutions is Egerton University, where I come from. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, what I also expected His Excellency to say, which actually it might have been forgotten, it was the matters in relation with the climate change, where His Excellency himself is the head of all the head of states in Africa in relation of championing the matters of climate change. And Kenya also being a forefront in relation with all the matters which affect climate change, and His Excellency being the champion, I expected at least also to that point to be appreciated in his speech. Because, Mr. Speaker, it is good also a note for here that even the absence of His Excellency in the current COP29, it was really, everyone felt there was, even the president actually has played great role globally in matters of climate change. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, allow me.
The Honorable Esther Passaris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, the first thing I want to say is that was one of the best State of the Nation addresses that I've ever heard. It was real, it was humble, and it was progressive. And it showed the areas in which the president has actually focused and worked hard. And the systems and structures that he's putting in place. We have to understand that the president has been in office only since 2022. And from 2022, I actually have to celebrate and commend him for being a very hard-working, focused president. And so hard-working and focused is he that I am not surprised that him and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga have teamed up to form the broad-based government. The broad-based government does not negate an opposition. Even members of government have been proved to be in opposition. When we come into opposition, it is because we are convicted that something is right and something is wrong. So anyone in this House can choose at any point in their leadership to shift from being opposition or from being government. And we have seen that in this House. That shows the independence of the House and the independence of the members. In 2023, I stood up here and supported the finance bill. Why? Because I was a member of the Housing Committee. And being a member of the Housing Committee, being an elected member for Nairobi County, I know that one of the things that really ails us is housing. Recently, just 2 days ago, it was raining so heavily in Nairobi. And I prayed for everyone that lives in the informal settlements of this city. No one should live in a slum in the capital city of Nairobi. This capital city has been rated as one of the most progressive cities, and yet we have people that live in tin huts, people that can be washed away in the rain. I can't imagine what the children are going through. I can't imagine the noise. I can't imagine the fear that this house will collapse on you. The president has commissioned houses all across the country. In the Housing Committee, we have also commissioned markets everywhere. So it's trade, it's housing, and you know what? Anybody who is against the housing project and says, I don't want housing, you might not want housing, but millions of Kenyans living in informal settlements, millions of children living in informal settlements need those houses. So I am happy and proud that he fought for the housing tax, because we needed a tax that would be dedicated into housing. And he fought and he said, you know what? A member of parliament or a businessman earning 1 million shillings, it is wrong, morally wrong, for us to pay 500 shillings for NHIF and expect that we will have universal health care. Universal health care means that anybody in this country can be able to walk into a hospital or a facility and be able to get treated, be able to find medicine, be able to find doctors. What does it mean to have doctors and nurses? It means we have jobs. What does it mean to have schools and students in schools? It means we have jobs for teachers. So all this is a holistic program. And I want to tell the Kenyans out there, especially the ones who are abroad and probably never even voted, don't even send any taxes to Kenya. You know, certain countries pay taxes if they want pensions in their own country, certain citizens. I mean, here we have a lot of Kenyans who live abroad, and they make so much noise, and they keep branding the president a liar. I'll tell you one thing. There is no one who can make a promise and be able to deliver it when things that are beyond his control come to play. When the president became president of this country, one, we had climate change to deal with. Two, we had wars all over the place. We were coming out from COVID. He has tried his best, and he's doing his best. The naysayers and those who are negative, please remember, Kenya belongs to all of us. The president has said we have to be resilient, we have to be focused, and we have to work together. The efforts to bring Kenya from poverty to prosperity, right, depends on all of us. Our forefathers worked hard. We're working hard. You, the youth of today, will work hard tomorrow. The country continues to progress. Let us celebrate the wins we have today, because if we don't celebrate, then we cannot bless the nation. Thank you, Mr. President, for the good work that you're doing. Continue, and may God continue to favor you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Kivai Ogesi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address by the President. Mr. Speaker, I would say I found this speech timely, honest and candid, factual, hopeful, progressive, and challengeful. Why do I say this speech was very timely? It is at the time the President was delivering this speech, the nation was very expectant. The nation didn't know whether to go left or right. This was a speech that the President gave hope to the nation, told them where we are and where we are going. Why do I say the speech was honest and candid? If you look at the preamble of the speech, the President started by acknowledging very many things. He acknowledged the fact that people out there are suffering. He acknowledged the fact that people are losing hope. And he himself said that he knows that, he understands that, and he's striving to do something about it. Why do I say that this speech was factual? All across the entire spectrum of the speech, the President was speaking on a topical matter and giving facts. For example, in the area of agriculture, the President was able to give facts on almost all aspects. The issue of fertilizer supply and subsidizing agriculture, we all know, we all have seen. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll give you a very good example where I come from in my village. My neighbor, who hardly harvests a bag of maize every time the harvesting cycle comes around, was able to come to me and tell me that she harvested close to 15 bags from one bag. And I asked her why. And she said, because of the fertilizer, this time round, she was able to apply fertilizer both at the planting season and the top dressing season. In that same meeting, there was another gentleman who was seated next to me. And he said, oh, the government supplied us with stones and rocks. That's a typical example of somebody who sees a glass. One sees the glass half full, another one sees it half empty. But overall, we have been able to traverse this country, and we've seen that people, the farmers have really had a good harvest. And that is also reflected in the figures that he gave on the number of bags in our stores. Obviously, all these successes come with challenges. The challenge here is we should try and avoid all post-harvesting losses. And also, the government, as one of us has said here, should find a way of ensuring that the farmers are adequately compensated through the prices paid by National Cereals and Produce Board. On the economy, again, facts are out there. If you look at the rate of exchange, some of us who have studied economics keep on wondering why the Kenya shilling is resilient. But it's not out of nowhere. It's out of these macro and microeconomic policies that are being pursued by this government. Inflation rate, nobody can argue with that, it's factual. Foreign exchange reserves, this is critical, because if we don't have foreign exchange reserves, we can't import. But the cover that we are now having on foreign exchange in the central bank is very encouraging. Facts on education are there, they have been enumerated here. In the health sector, a lot has been said about SHA, SHIV. I think the ideas are very good, the plan is good. I think what we are seeing at the moment is just implementation challenges, which, if we are focused, and I challenge the minister and all stakeholders.
Very well, the Honorable Daniel Kirito is in the House. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to earn my voice to the State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President. Mr. Speaker, I wish first to recommend and support the President of this. He came out strongly and articulated the issues affecting this country openly and faced the challenges head-on and emulating on how we will tackle the challenges that are facing this country. Mr. Speaker, we the leaders and being politicians, we would also encourage that we avoid politicking matters development. Mr. Speaker, there is no country that can develop unless it grows economically and strengthens its economic basis. And this is the line where the President has worked very well, especially on food programs. A country that cannot sustain its own food stability cannot develop. And that's why we support where the President is saying we have to subside on production, and it has really succeeded. Because for the first time, we have enough food for our people, and even we have enough surplus, even for export. It means our economy base is going to be stronger, and we have realized it whereby even the dollar, the shilling is able to appreciate the dollar from 169 to 129. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the dairy sector, the President said that we have 3 billion to KICC. And I challenge the KICC to make sure that these funds are used well and to remember even our factories. For example, the Kangeta dairy factory, which is only lacking sealing machines, so that the farmers from all those areas, even from my own area of Wigembe Central, can benefit from these funds. They can sell the milk directly to the factory instead of being handled by the brokers. Mr. Speaker, a country that is not healthy is not a wealthy country. And this introduction of SHA and SHIF and Taifa Care to replace the ailing NHIF is a positive move to make sure that this country grows health-wise. And I also challenge the ones involved in implementing these policies to do them to the letter And I'm happy that the government has taken a step to make sure that we bring it to the grassroots and educate our people on the importance of registering in these schemes of SHA and CHIF so that they can benefit. Mr. Speaker, we have very many challenges, especially on raising funds for assisting our people to go to the hospitals to undergo these treatments. And if we have an agency that will be taking care of these bills, it's a welcome move, and we should all support it and educate our people and encourage them to register en masse so that they can benefit from this scheme. Mr. Speaker, affordable housing. This country, the arable land is very little. And if we build houses all over the country, it will end up using all the arable land on houses. Where we are building houses for our people, even in rural areas, we have enough land for farming, and those people who are suffering in lacking houses will have some place to call home. Mr. Speaker, on security matters, I congratulate the DCI, because in Mutembei Central we have an insecurity last year, whereby one gentleman, his mother, was killed, and yesterday, last week, all the killers have been arrested. And I brought the case here in this parliament, and the statement was given.
Very many members on the queue. You have done your bit. Is the Honorable Abdikadir Mohammed in the House? If he's not present, then we listen to the Honorable John Makali. Abdikadir, proceed. You're next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So Makali will follow thereafter, and then Memusi.
Yeah, thank you for giving. Okay, thank you for giving the opportunity to contribute to the presidential debate. Mr. Speaker, to start with, I think the president did well to cancel the Adani deals. But there's one problem. We know in this country we cannot raise enough internal revenue, and we can no longer borrow huge amounts of loans or money to develop. So if we need development, I think BPP is the right way to go. Although Kenyans always are against either direct procurement or the privately, the privately initiated proposals. That's the problem. They always think that whenever something is privately initiated, that's something for that somebody somewhere is pushing for it so that they can gain. So PPP is the right way to go. If we cannot borrow any more loan, or if we cannot raise our internal revenue, there's no other way that we can develop. On the issue of SHA that the president spoke about, the problem with SHA is that the transition has been hurriedly done, such that even the staff working, former staff of NHIF, are still working with SHA, but they have already been laid off. The problem with the act is that I have never seen an organization on transition whose staff has been laid off, and then the same staff are told to work for SHA again. I mean for the same organization again. The staff are not motivated because they have already been laid off. Right now they are under Public Service Commission. They are no longer working for SHA. They are not working they are not working for NHIF, and they are not working for SHA. And the same staff are used. They're being used even to register members. So how are they going to be motivated when they're being told they're laid off, they're no longer staff, and then they're working for the same organization? I think that was hardly done, and the government should look into the welfare of those staff. Former staff in NHIF, about 1,200 of them, they are good staff. I have worked there before. They are very good staff. There are some few maybe who have a problem. Let them deal with those few with the problem, and then the other staff, they are transitioned without any condition to the new SHA. Because if they don't do that, and they lay off all the staff, and no longer working for SHA, then where are we going? What are we doing? We are doing nothing. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the issue of SHA, it has a good intention, but the transition has been mishandled. Such a way that right now they don't have any staff and they are trying to use the staff that they laid off. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity. I do support the presidential address.
Very well, Makali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to also contribute on the President's speech, being the third since this regime came into office. Mr. Speaker, I must say that the President, in coming to this House to deliver the State of the Nation address, answered one of our key principles of national unity, and that is constitutionalism. By coming to this House to give the State of the Nation address, the President gave a testament himself that he believes in the rule of law and democracy and constitutionalism, which are the national values espoused in our Article 10 of our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, at independence, our forefathers committed themselves that we needed to fight poverty, ignorance, and disease. 61 years thereafter, Honorable Speaker, we are still fighting those vices. And in my contribution to this speech, Honorable Speaker, I wish to analyze the President's speech in the light of those three vices, which we committed ourselves at independence to fight. The President in his speech is very candid that we must ask ourselves very, very critical questions. And one of the critical quotes which he has put in his speech is that, are we really listening to Kenyans? And he has said critically that listening is a full-time occupation for us who have been given positions of leadership by the people of Kenya. And he's asking ourselves, when we go back to our people, what will they say about us? Do they have money in their pockets? Do they have the education that we promised? Are we really a society that is living to the expectations and the promises which we made to our people? Poverty is still with us. Kenyans have spoken many times that poverty is still endemic in our societies. What did the President say in this particular speech? He said the country is committed to get economic freedom. And from this particular speech, I was delighted, Honorable Speaker, that I come from a sugar zone. Our farmers have really suffered. From 2022, we've been fighting to ensure that we have economic freedom, to ensure that our farmers put their money in their pockets. It was heartening, Honorable Speaker, to learn that all our 17 sugar factories are now operational, and that we are no longer going to import sugarcane. But that is not where we have reached, Your Honorable Speaker. We still have a journey to go. We want to ask that all and sundry who are out there, specifically from our sugarcane growing zone, in support of our economy, we support the sugar reforms that have been put there so that our farmers can be able to get value for their sugarcane and ensure that the sugar industry thrives for the benefit of our people, because then we will be fighting poverty, which is an enemy we committed ourselves to fight in 1963. The second issue is disease. Honorable Speaker, I have had occasion to look at all the manifestos that were lodged by the political parties when we were convincing people to vote for us to form government in 2022. Each of them was committing themselves to universal health care. Honorable Speaker, this House has passed 4 critical bills that will bring into play the universal health care. We have challenges with SHA chief. People are making comments. People are complaining. But we are saying that we are on the right path. What we will want to ask of our people, as the President has implored, is patience. All these teething problems that are with us in terms of transition should be sorted. And we want to ask our technocrats in our ministries, please don't let the President and the people of Kenya down. Please let us strengthen this social health insurance scheme so that our people can get health care. Because every day we are receiving calls about people who want to receive medical care and they can't afford it. Then education. We are fighting ignorance. We have made various strides in the education sector in fighting ignorance by employing teachers. What I will want to ask, the scheme that was there for higher education funding, we want to ask our technocrats in the Ministry of Education, please can we revisit this funding model so that we can be able to work it so that it's of benefit to Kenyans who are supposed to benefit from it, so that we don't have Kenyans complaining about it every day, so that we can be able to streamline it. But ultimately we ask Kenyans that we are one nation. We need to support the leadership.
No. Many members are queuing. You have done your bit, the Honorable Memusi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice in support of the President's speech. And let me start by saying that the speech, Honorable Speaker, was inspirational. A speech motivated and gave hope to most Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, the speech showed that the President is in touch with the people and the issues that affect them. Honorable Speaker, the President's speech was a thoughtful response to the issues that affect the people of Kenya. But above all, Honorable Speaker, the speech gave a clear picture of a leader who has a plan. For a very long time, Honorable Speaker, this country has been mismanaged. It has been mismanaged by leaders who borrowed without caring, knowing very well that it is not them who are going to think of paying what they've borrowed, but the next regime. This country, for a very long time, past regimes have not thought about the increase of population. We are now facing unemployment that is threatening the security of this country. The issues that Kenyans face today are not a creation of this regime. It is a generational problem. But the President in his speech touched on almost every sector and gave a demonstration and gave a plan of what his government is putting in place to try and sort out all these issues. Honorable Speaker, corruption has been a cancer in this country. And the President came out very strongly to address this issue. And I want to urge this House that we must support the fight against corruption. Devolution, for example, the drafters of our Constitution, the idea behind devolution was to try and bring areas of this country that had been marginalized for a very long time to par with other areas. But sadly, Mr. Speaker, this is not happening. If you go to my home county, we still struggle with basic needs. Water is still a far-fetched dream for our mothers, our sisters. We still share the same water holes with cows and wild animals, Mr. Speaker. What is the meaning of devolution? The meaning of devolution was not to create 47 billionaires every 5 years. That was not the meaning of devolution. The meaning of devolution was to bring those areas in this country that were left behind to try and be par with other parts of this country. There are parts in my constituency where a child will grow and become an adult without ever seeing a tarmac road. Where is this money going to? So, Mr. Speaker, the issue of corruption in the President's address, he touched on this issue and came out very strongly that he is willing and is ready to deal with corruption. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge Kenyans to shun negativity. As the President said, we cannot afford failure. Kenyans out there are just waiting for a small thing to say, hii serikali ya Ruto. This is not Ruto's government. This is our country. We cannot afford to fail, Mr. Speaker. I want to urge Kenyans to all come together and ask ourselves, what am I doing for our country? What am I doing for my country? Kenya, we must all work to make it great. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute on the presidential address, which was delivered in this House, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost is to thank His Excellency the President on the speech which touched on Kenyans. I would say it is a masterstroke of the issues touching on the lives of Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, the President admitted and gave his concern on the issues raised by Kenyans. And I would say that he has listened to Kenyans. But we want to ask also those Kenyans who have made so much noise the same channel which they used in insulting and talking things which are unpalatable to the nation. Mr. Speaker, I think it is time we culture ourselves on the wordings we use in this country. It has gone all the way to the pulpit now. Now, where are we going to save ourselves in? Can we ask the members of the cloth to really make or become sober and look at this country as a country where we need unity and we need to be one? Mr. Speaker, I think it is their turn to talk about it now. Mr. Speaker, I also want to turn on the economic development which this country has achieved. Mr. Speaker, in the 2010-2013, this country was an exporter to the country of Uganda, and it was the leader, economic leader in the country. When this government took over, we were just importing goods from the countries where we were exporting to. Right now, we have stopped sugar from being brought from neighboring countries. We have stopped all other things which are being imported, and we have had a reserve in the treasury for our imports. Mr. Speaker, I would say that that is real growth. The farmers are happy because they are having subsidized fertilizers, and I want to say my constituents are happy that they are able to grow and be able to fend for themselves to have food put on the table. Mr. Speaker, what perturbed me after the report of the President when he came to the House is the media houses. Mr. Speaker, the media houses were talking about what the President said and what is in the Central Bureau of Statistics. When has the Central Bureau of Statistics be more accurate than even what we have at the current state? Central Bureau of Statistics have given wrong figures before, and they will continue giving wrong figures. And the media are using it to disparage the speech of the President by saying, this is what the President said, but the real figures are here. Now, who leads the Central Bureau of Statistics? It is the government. So how can the Central Bureau of Statistics be more accurate than the leader of the country as we talk? Mr. Speaker, I also want to laud the President on his efforts to bring up the farming community, the coffee, the tea, and even the milk, the dairy farmers. The Treasury has been able to support our KCC to pay farmers up to 50 shillings. But the management misused the money and they were not able to pay the 50 shillings per litre. we want to say that it is time that those people who do not know what they are supposed to be doing should be given a chance to go and settle at home and give Kenyans a break. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Julius Tai Tumu.
This country for the candid.
Is the honorable member on the mic? Please just update his microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Let me also join the rest in congratulating the President for the candid statement on the address of this nation on Thursday last week. The President went through a raft of issues that have been handled by his government, both in challenges and the numerous successes that this government has addressed. Mr. Speaker, let me single out the education sector. When this government came into existence, this country was in dire need of teachers, particularly in the junior secondary school sector. There is no any other government that has been able to address such a challenge within 2 years. Mr. Speaker, in 2023, this government employed a whopping 56,000 new teachers, 10,000 as permanent and pensionable, and 46,000 on the contract. This year, the teachers who are on contract, 46,000 of them, will be transitioning to P&P come January next year. That is a big stride that requires to be supported by the entire citizens. This year, we are aware another 20,000 teachers are in the process of being recruited as interns, whom we are urging the government, maybe by next year, July, after the budget, they should also transition to permanent and pensionable teachers. We are aware, Mr. Speaker, that due to these challenges, the 20,000 teachers who are about to be recruited are basically geared to addressing the science teachers shortage in the junior secondary school, because that was an area that and a challenge also. And the TSC, in their own and through the advice of other stakeholders, they have realized that that sector needs to be addressed. The other area that the government is working on to address is the challenge of unemployment in this country. The Department of Diaspora Affairs is doing a lot of publicity to make sure that the artisans, the lower levels of unemployed youth can get access to international areas of employment. It's also something that is commendable. Mr. Speaker, this government has revolutionized the agricultural sector by making sure that instead of subsidizing consumables, it is worthy to subsidize the production. And by so doing, we are almost food secure in all sectors. We heard that 17 sugar factories are now working. And this country now is sugar secure, and we are also about to do the export of sugar. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Though, if possible, through your indulgence, I can get a minute or so to finish my sentence. The health sector, Mr. Speaker, although it has a big challenge, I am sure
that the crises that are there will be ironed. Mr. Speaker, you remember when Michuki was in the transport industry, people used to cling on the doors of the vehicles. He faced the challenge end on, and with the time, today, that sector is working. There are no people who clings on the doors of the vehicles. There are no excesses that it used to be, and I am sure that this sector, the SAR, will work with the time, and the Kenyans will enjoy.
The Honorable Adams keeps an eye. Very well, proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to give my comments on the presidential speech. Mr. Speaker, the President addressed the nation in a very precise, straight to the point message, and he actually touched on issues that are affecting many Kenyans. In short, Mr. Speaker, the President elaborated more on problems facing Kenyans. For example, the education, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenyans, for a very long time, since the inception of CBC, have had a problem of understanding the curriculum, battling with the problem of shortage of teachers and materials. And Mr. Speaker, I think the President mentioned the efforts that has been made by his government on sorting out that problem. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of teachers. You know, as a country, we have a huge population of school-going children. And the President elaborated and shared to the nation his plan of how he intends to equip the education sector and the efforts that he has already made by employing many, many teachers, 56,000 and others that are to be employed in the coming year. Mr. Speaker, on issue of health care, Kenyans have been suffering. They have had problems facing, to do with illnesses, problems that we have dealt with since independence. But the President told the nation that he intends to make a decision that is unpopular, but that will solve the problem that have been affecting them for a very long time. On the issue of the economy, Mr. Speaker, is issues to do with stabilization of our Kenyan shilling. You know, for some 2-3 years ago, the Kenyan shilling against the dollar was so high, such a way that we were risking going the direction that many African countries have gone before. But the issue of economic growth, the President also elaborated himself on the matters to do with food security that has enabled our Kenyan population to buy their produce at a low prices, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, availability of fertilizers to our Kenyan farmers has made this country to be food secure. When we go to rural countries, up country, Mr. Speaker, you will see farmers harvesting maize courtesy of the subsidized fertilizers provided by the Kenya Kwanza government. Mr. Speaker, the fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer has also enabled other small-scale farmers, especially those ones who are dealing with horticulture, to supply and produce food that has stabilized the economy for now. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of housing and the ESP market, the President elaborated and shared more on the plans that he intends to make sure that most Kenyans get a dignified housing in accordance to our Constitution, Mr. Speaker. And in return, most young people are getting job opportunities from the said projects. When you go to any urban sector, any urban towns within our country, you will see many young people getting engaged in the affordable housing projects and the market where our small-scale farmers and traders will be able to get a place to do their business, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the importation of allowing local manufacturers to thrive has enabled to stabilize and give an opportunity our local manufacturers, especially those ones at the manufacturing sector, those ones dealing with furniture and so forth, to get access to the market in our country. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, is to tell our country and most Kenyans that we have one great country called Kenya. It is upon each one of us to remain positive and acknowledge the efforts made up by our country. Patience is a virtue, and we must support the president to achieve his bigger agenda. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Jen Kagiri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address. Honorable Speaker, I would want to start by appreciating that the President indicated that he's a listening President. And as he went on with his speech, it confirmed that true to the word, he's actually a listening President. Honorable Speaker, I would want to start with the mention of CBC. To many of us in this House and outside there, Honorable Speaker, we would want to assume that CBC is not working in this country. But recently, Honorable Speaker, I visited Mombasa. And when we took a boat ride and got to the middle of the ocean, the captain asked who was ready to dive into the water. 3 young boys shouted quickly that they are CBC students and they know how to swim. They gladly jumped into the water and swam and later got back to the boat. That, Honorable Speaker, should confirm to us that the students benefiting from this curriculum are actually growing and progressing as they should. Honorable Speaker, to us what we need to ensure is that we give them the required facilities as well as ensure teachers are available to guide them through their education. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, I appreciate that the President took time to mention the reality of this country. Honorable Speaker, we are still heavily in debt, and we need to appreciate that things are not the same as they should be. We would want a lot of development, but just like in our houses, when we are in debt, there are some things we have to sacrifice because we are not able to provide things as they should be done. Honorable Speaker, that calls for the whole country to get to an understanding that when debts reach their maturity, we have to prioritize them for payment, and that will see our country suffering in various ways. Honorable Speaker, I would want to mention on food production and appreciate that our government has provided over 7 million bags of fertilizer to our farmers. Honorable Speaker, that has graduated to giving us 74 million bags of food in this current year. That is our projection. Honorable Speaker, if we look at the consumption required for our country, it is around 52 million bags per year. This is now confirming to us that we are headed to become a country that will be exporting maize now and in the near future. Honorable Speaker, that is growth and progress for our country. In regards to Taifa Care, Honorable Speaker, this reminds me of when we were in school. We had classmates who would convince us that it was not good to study, but they would study at night and succeed, while they've left others who did not study. Honorable Speaker, with SHA, if we look at the benefits that it has brought to our people, comparing it with NHIF, NHIF could only cater for our patients from level 4 upwards hospitals. Today, SHA is catering for our patients from level 1 hospitals. This means if it is a person from my county, a place called Gatero, they don't need to travel to Nyahururu for treatment. They can go to the nearest dispensary, get treated, and go back home. They will have saved on transport, and they will have saved on time. Honorable Speaker, similarly, many times we speak of people who have been victims of accidents, and when they get to a hospital, their relatives have to sign forms or first pay for them the bill for them to be treated. In many cases, we have lost lives in those instances. Honorable Speaker, now here SHA has come to ensure that a hospital can treat you and claim from SHA afterwards because they have treated you, giving you a priority that you are Kenyan and you are covered by the universal health coverage. Honorable Speaker, on my third point, we are always called for fundraisings. Fundraisings towards patients of cancer, fundraisings towards patients with terminal illnesses. Here again has come SHA that is going to cover our people on all those areas and ensure that families don't have to lose their properties as they are trying to save their loved ones. And Honorable Speaker, having had the experience of having a patient in ICU with cancer, I tell you, Honorable Speaker, as you're praying for the patient, every evening you have to go look at how fast the bill is growing. For me, I appreciate that our people will never have to worry about that. Honorable Speaker, allow me to mention the issue of affordable housing because I sit in the Housing Committee. This is a program that has created employment for our people. If you visit Kibera on any given day, you will find 4,000 young men and women who walk into a site there for construction. take a calculation of the year that they'll have worked on that site. These are people who will have money in their pockets and people who will have to progress for their families. Finally, Honorable Speaker, allow me to mention the issue of Adani. Of course, our president is a listening president. Many wondered why we cheered when he said the contract has to be cancelled. Honorable Speaker, it is because we had all individually raised our voices on this issue, and silently the president heard us and made his proclamation on it. Honorable Speaker, I would want to add and state, many times we look at other countries that are doing well, and we forget our own country. Rwanda is doing a PPP on the international airport. Rwanda owns 40% of that transaction, and 60% is by Qatar Airways. Is Rwanda going to lose their airport? The answer is no. Is Rwanda going to progress? The answer is yes, because they will get funding from private sources and grow their country. Finally, Honorable Speaker, femicide has to come.
The Honorable Beatrice Kimei. You have been waiting. It's your chance.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice and appreciate the speech of the President or the address of the President on the issues of the nation. During his address, Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate him most sincerely for I noted that he's a listening President. The issues that he addressed is actually some of them has been concerned for many of our people in Kenya. Specifically, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that issues of education, the CPC, and the like, the President had, and he actually responded. Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate the side of agriculture. Here, Honorable Speaker, when we talk about the sugar industry that has been dormant for many years. I come from Kericho County and the lower strip of Kericho, and especially Soin is where sugarcane is grown in large scale, and the factories were mismanaged and farmers had so much issues with it. But with this, Honorable Speaker, I am so delighted that farmers will have money in their pockets out of this. The 17 factories that have actually been revived and the 4 that are ongoing. Honorable Speaker, I'm only concerned that some of the employees have not been paid their dues. I'm asking the Ministry of Agriculture to make sure that they pay those employees in the factories. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to the issues of dairy farming, I'm so impressed that farmers will be paid 50 shillings. And Honorable Speaker, the feeds are becoming very expensive. So when we talk of 50 shillings, I appreciate. But I want to believe that something more should be done so that we don't import feeds, like now importing from Uganda and the like. So the 50 shillings is okay, but I believe it is progressive. Next time it will be more. I expected the President to also add his voice to the beef and in the livestock farming, because some areas do livestock farming, and not forgetting that many women don't own the cattle, they own goats and poultry. So if the President can also add his voice to goats and poultry, it will be safe for us as women, because that is where we can empower our women. That is where, especially the side of market. We have issues with market for poultry and even for goats. That is where women are. Honorable Speaker, with the food security, I'm so impressed that fertilizers have bought fruits. Now that we have plenty of our food and surplus to sell, the National Cereals and Produce Board should actually have more stores to buy more of this maize. And we should also look for market outside this country, so that in this case, we are not going to bring the price down from 3,500 shillings. Farmers expect more from this. At least that is how we can be safe in this country. And that is how farmers can get money in their pockets. However, Honorable Speaker, I would also ask that in the cases where the farmers we have the middlemen who are exploiting the farmers. That is now where the National Cereals and Produce Board comes in. However, we are not only concerned with the maize, we also have other food products that farmers should engage in. Honorable Speaker, I cannot conclude without talking about the sexual and gender-based violence. I appreciate the President in a very special way when he talked of that women are not second-class citizens. So in this period when we are having activism against gender-based violence for 16 days, I want to thank the President, but I pray that we will have the gender office in hospitals, not in the police stations, because that is where and everything should cycle. We have victims and the survivors who may not be able to go to the police stations, and even when they go to the police stations, they are not treated well. But in hospitals, that is now where counseling is done. That is even where everything else that is concerned about the specimens and...
The Honorable Kitilai Olentutu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice on the President's State of the Nation address done on Thursday last week in fulfillment of the mandate vested in him under Article 132, Article 1C of the Constitution of Kenya to report to Kenyans on the measures the government have taken and the progress made in realizing our national values and principle of governance, and submit the progress made in fulfilling our international obligation. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, the President addressed thematic areas that really touch the heart of the Kenyan people during his State of the Nation address, and I sincerely want to commend him for making decisive, crucial decisions to better our country, including the cancellation of the contentious Adani deal. This shows our government is listening keenly, remain committed to work hard every day for the greater national interest. As a member for Narok South, I support the President and the government of Kenya for making that bold decision. Honorable Speaker, our President also announced the improvement of our school infrastructure and learning activities, where the employment of 20,000 more junior secondary school teachers in Kenya, absolutely tremendous, remarkable effort to create countless job opportunity for our many young people. Honorable Speaker, we also encourage the government of Kenya to fast track quick construction of more classrooms in JSS school, thus ensuring there is smooth transition of our students come January 2025. Honorable Speaker, I also want to commend the issue of national security, that our people must be secure at all times by the government. It is also imperative to note we currently live in an era where criminal activities have been on the rise. For instance, in Narok South, where I represent, we held a consultative security meeting that brought together sub-county security team, members of the Nyumba Kumi initiative, and business community 2 weeks ago after criminal activities increased in Ololonga Center, and that is why the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination must scale up the operation in areas in order to protect Kenyans and their property. I also want to commend on the President, for this effort of making the government of Kenya is working hard for the stabilize the economy by reducing the inflation through lowering prices of basic commodities. It is also worth noting that the Kenya shilling has stabilized compared to a few months ago against the US dollar and another hard currency, much remain to be done. Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I also want to make few remarks about the Kenya Kwanza ambitious plan of bottom-up economic model. Our President on Thursday last week addressed passionately about the need for Kenya to attain food security through modernization of KCC, and I want to request the government to continue pumping more resources to these cooperatives so that our farmers in Kenya, more importantly in the livestock keepers, benefit directly. Honorable Speaker, it is well known that livestock keeping is of course the main economic activities in Narok, Kajiado, Samburu, Garissa, and many parts of the country, and we must empower our farmers through KCC. For those who remark, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Cynthia Muge has been waiting. Where's the Honorable Cynthia? Very well. Then let's have the Honorable Manyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I quickly just want to also say that the speech was good. My prayer is the implementers or handlers of those bestowed authority to do their work. I hope they will do it, because in a country where we have other people malnutritioned and others look well fed, we must strike a balance. The President mentioned so many crucial things in his speech. Where I come from in Busia, we are having a dwindling or going down sugar companies that are closing down because of poaching. And this has come because of delayed pay and also poor pay. So frustrations that have been facing farmers across the country. I hope this is the end of it. The President mentioned about also building a few sports academies. I happen to be in a sports committee, and this has been on for over a decade. I just hope that it will finally roll out this year, because we do not want to call the President a liar anymore. And because of also employment, the young people, things that have been happening, I hear other people have been taken abroad to work. We need the foreign affairs sector to be publishing this yearly. Let us know how many people from every region have been employed, have benefited, how many are women, how many are people living with disabilities, and generally just striking a balance where we do not feel like other tribes are bigger or better or more dominant than others. And in his speech as well, there were so many other promising things. I have had one or two people say they have been treated without pay, without being asked to pay in hospitals. I just hope this is happening across the nation, because if this is happening, even me, I want to go and try and testify. So we lack people who also talk good of what has happened through this regime. So that's why so many Kenyans are asking, where exactly is this happening? Where is this good happening? So we need also to see and verify where exactly these things have started rolling out, and where it is not good, we say no. Like Adani, I don't know why the President cancelled something that was not there. If it was not there, then why was he cancelling? And if he cancelled it before it happened, then that is a good thing as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honorable Cynthia is now here. Please just take a bite of 3 minutes, and then we shall give one more honorable. We're just recovering our time. We began late today, and then we close.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to comment on the President's address to this Honorable House. Honorable Speaker, I can describe the address as coming from someone who is not only concerned but compassionate, Honorable Speaker, and a very empathic leader, Honorable Speaker, who listens to the people. Honorable Speaker, following the President's address to this House, he was able to aptly elucidate, Honorable Speaker, the gains and the milestones that have been able to be met by this government, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in the President's words, Honorable Speaker, it is clear that he has the heart to be able to sort out the issues and the problems that are ailing this country, Honorable Speaker. And he was actually able to ask the hard questions, Honorable Speaker, by himself. And the asking, Honorable Speaker, tells you that he has been listening to the people and he has been keenly following what is happening, Honorable Speaker. And I was specifically impressed, Honorable Speaker, by the fact that he said that we are not where we want to go, but we are in the process of going there, and we are no longer where we were before. Honorable Speaker, he addressed very important issues, and I want to touch on 4 of them, Honorable Speaker. The first one, Honorable Speaker, is on the housing program. I am one person, Honorable Speaker, who never paid attention to the housing program until I went to the ground, Honorable Speaker, and saw the impact of this particular housing program. Honorable Speaker, we have counties that are called the bread baskets, Honorable Speaker, including Nandi County. And when I went there, Honorable Speaker, I kept looking at the land sizes and the fragmentation, and I saw the importance, Honorable Speaker, of paying attention to this housing program. Honorable Speaker, I want to urge all the Kenyans to be able to pay attention to these houses. I have gone to the website of Boma Yangu, Honorable Speaker, and actually gone ahead to save and commit to be able to buy one of those houses. It is the houses, Honorable Speaker, that you would never find it for the cost and the price that the government of Kenya is giving. You would never find a studio going for 980,000 shillings or 840,000 shillings, Honorable Speaker, in this country. You will pay a lot more than that. In Kapsabet, Honorable Speaker, where we have one ongoing, I am actually booking one that is 3 bedrooms. Honorable Speaker, the 3-bedroom one goes for 2.8 million. Honorable Speaker, you would never find a house that goes for 2.8 million, a 3-bedroom. It doesn't matter where you go, but you will never find it, apart from government, Honorable Speaker. The President, Honorable Speaker, spoke to the issues of cost of living, and he was able to elaborate that, Honorable Speaker, and we can then start appreciating, Honorable Speaker, the gains that this government has been able to make. He spoke to the issue of corruption, and I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that this is a game changer. As soon as we're able to sort out the dragon and slay the dragon called corruption, this country is going to do better. We are going to have seamless services, we are going to have efficiency in government, and we are going to have even the youth of this country benefiting from things like the e-procurement, Honorable Speaker. With that, we are going to ensure that AGPO and YAGPO, Honorable Speaker, is accorded to the women and the youth of this country. We spoke about the education, Honorable Speaker, and Honorable Speaker, I want to say this and give this appeal, that the employment of teachers is very good, Honorable Speaker, but I also want to ask that there should be a database, Honorable Speaker, showing all the P1 teachers, Honorable Speaker, who graduated as early as 2012 and have never been employed today, Honorable Speaker. Some of those people are 43 years old. They only have 2 years to stop being employable, Honorable Speaker. And I want to ask that this be paid attention to so that they can be able to be considered. On the UHC, Honorable Speaker, on the issue of health, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to set the record straight. There is a Honorable member who stood here during her contribution, the Honorable Susan, Honorable Speaker, and said that there is a capping of 6,000 shillings only for people who go for dialysis. Honorable Speaker, she should be keen to detail that the cover under SHA, Social Health Insurance, Honorable Speaker, is providing 10,650 per session, and it gives an approval of at least 3 sessions per week. Honorable Speaker, the people who go through dialysis, Honorable Speaker, do not go more than 3 times a week. And Honorable Speaker, that should be set straight. And the UHC, Honorable Speaker, is actually working in this country. I have been able to register people at my personal level because I am a citizen who is no longer asking, what can this government do? I am asking, what can I do?
The Honorable George Gachagua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this presidential address to the nation on matters going on in the country. Mr. Speaker, it came to me that we have a listening government, and he addressed every concern in Kenyans' minds. Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that the economy is improving. There are some indicators that we are heading in the right direction. Some of these indicators, Mr. Speaker, are the foreign exchange reserves surging by 2.4 billion to hit a record of 9.4 billion, thereby increasing the investor confidence. Mr. Speaker, the dollar, our country appreciated from 162 to 129 per dollar, and that is also another indicator that we are heading in the right direction. Inflation, Mr. Speaker, dropped from 9.7 to 2.6. Mr. Speaker, coming from a place called Daragwa, Mr. Speaker, whereby we are endowed with daily farming. Mr. Speaker, the government giving KCC 3 billion to improve on modernization of KCC, Mr. Speaker. That was a very great idea. And KCC uptaking 100,000 liters to 220,000 liters. That is quite commendable, Mr. Speaker. On the healthcare, Mr. Speaker, I was quite impressed by the President saying that...
Order, the Honorable George, you can take your seats. You will have a balance of 3 minutes in the afternoon session. So make sure that you are here early to finish your contribution on this particular matter. Honorable members, we may be upstanding. And honorable members, and the time being 1:10 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today, Tuesday, 26th November 2024 at 2:30 p.m.